Hello. Welcome to the Don't Be Afraid podcast. My name is Andrew. Thank you for listening. I've been looking for a number of examples of brave and courageous men of honor and duty to tell you about because their lives are remarkable. Sometimes due to single actions, sometimes due to how they live their lives. I think I may be stuck now in the topic of military history because there are so many fine examples. Due to war, we end up sifting out those who will step up, sometimes through a brutal process of attrition. The toughest are there to serve in certain posts, certain jobs, and oftentimes killed in service to the people who have sent them to war. That's why it's so tragic when the battles are unnecessarily fought or some other methods weren't explored. Mechanization. Of it all, the machine of war. And then, as the 20th century has shown us, we've culled so many of our bravest and finest. Some theorize that's why we have a crisis in courage and bravery and masculinity, whatever you want to call it. There's so much messaging today of just saying that anyone can do any job anywhere and anyone's qualified and don't ever question it. How dare you? And it's just absurd. It's silly. There's many things that take a specific type, a certain intelligence, or a certain athleticism, depending on what we're talking about here. You know, it's just not true that anyone could do anything anywhere, and this sort of robotization. This dehumanizing. That's the word. Dehumanizing, right? We're all just numbers. It's where the little things that make us people, which is everything, which is our lineage, our culture, favorite smell, your favorite color, your affinity for this or that, right? If it's all just sort of this gross, homogenized global culture, there's no flavor. It's all just Pizza Hut and McDonald's. It's gross. It stinks. So, I will reach back in historic examples of noteworthy men. Those who stepped up and made examples for their sons. Those who were tough, oftentimes because they had to be, but it doesn't diminish it at all. Men that were able to accomplish amazing things. Men who died for their buddies in service. Men like Eugene B. Sledge. I recently watched a documentary on him. He was one of the chroniclers of 20th century battle, known as the best, due to him journaling about his experiences while not allowed to actually own a journal proper. He would write in the margins of his Bible. And he's fondly remembered in the service. And his book, which he compiled 30 years later, going through those notes, his wife helped him, she typed it up. And he would have these recollections, he'd sort of feed back into the notes that he had, and that was his process. And he's fondly remembered for sharing what it's like, the horror, the smells, the great men that he served along and the tragic loss of their lives. What I'm going to communicate to you, and I have in other shows, is that these are people. They have stories. They had grandmothers. They had a right to live. They had a right to be. And so many of the finest have been cut down by war. That's the general theme here. There's others, but that one's really been poking at me the last week. I'm going to link below to the Eugene B. Sledge documentary. I'm also working on something on the heroics of John Basilone. Also fought in the Pacific, cut down, fighting to the last against amazing opposition. You know, these men, they form perimeters, they establish states, and they lay down their lives protecting them. I think the focus matters from where I'm coming from to those who lay down their lives protecting them, so we can kind of reflect on when that is and isn't necessary, when there's been egregious abuse of power, when lesser men have sent greater men to die. Sometimes I ask, what is my responsibility to a generational memory? And I'm still figuring that out. But so many of these stories are forgotten, never heard of, certainly not taught in public schools. So I want to talk about them with you, and I hope you like hearing me tell you about them. In the meantime, I'm working on a write-up, a blog, and a podcast, a narrative podcast about Chesty Puller, highly decorated United States Marine. Amazing career, 37 years. That'll be coming as soon as I can finish up the work on that. But for now, I'm going to link you to the Eugene B. Sledge documentary on YouTube, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. This has been a very short Don't Be Afraid podcast. Again, my name is Andrew. Thank you for listening.
Fight! Ready! Aim! Fight! Ready! Aim! Fight!